A lot of times as benefit leaders, we can just deliver something we think needs to happen or give our employees homework to do. But really, truly understanding and addressing someone's real needs and preferences, whether that's spending time out in the field or talking with other employers, I think that's when you can really create those simple, accessible, relevant things. Because again, I think so much is well intentioned in benefits, but you're just giving people a lot of homework and no one's looking for more homework. They're looking for more help. So to me, starting with that foundational need is what drives ultimately success for a benefits offering.
Hello, and welcome to the Mental Health Advantage podcast, where HR, benefits, and total rewards leaders explore the future of workplace well-being. I'm your host, Stephen Sokoler, founder and CEO of Journey, the leading proactive mental health solution for modern companies. Today, I am joined by my friend, Mr. Nathan Counts, a total rewards leader with a rare mix of technical expertise, people-centered thinking, and a proven track record of driving engagement and savings at scale. That's really nice. Did I write that? Did you write that?
It sounds good. I don't know who did it, but I'll take it.
That's pretty good. And there's more. Whether it's simplifying complex offerings or making sure deskless employees feel included, Nathan leads with clarity, compassion, and results. So Nate, it is awesome to be here with you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this conversation. I know we've moved it a couple times, but I can't wait to get into it with you.
Yeah, now is the perfect time. So total rewards leader at Amtrak. You probably have a lot on your plate. Why don't you take us back? How did you end up where you are today?
Yeah, so I started initially as a consultant, as an actuary. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. My degrees were in math, computer science. I knew I wanted to get into business and try to make some impact. And consulting was a natural place to start. But it's easy to get burnt out in consulting, where you just try to sell more or work more. And I was very fortunate enough to move to one of my clients, AT&T, which was a great company, lots of fun, huge scale. Got to go really deep on a lot of benefits projects. And then, I've been doing that for a while, consulting for them, working for them, and had the chance to come to Amtrak to start a total rewards team, building up our executive compensation benefits programs, as well as leading some safety sensitive employees. We have some internal EAP clinicians, some substance use counselors, which most companies don't have. So it's been a fun ride to help the company grow. And now we're in our optimization phase. But yeah, having fun in total rewards has been a great pivot.
As the VP of Total Rewards, you're responsible for ensuring benefits work for the entire team, regardless of folks' role or location or age or gender or race or any of that stuff. So can you tell us what's the most important consideration when you're thinking about bringing in a new benefit?
Yeah, I think it's to start at what are the real employee needs. A lot of times as benefit leaders, we can just deliver something we think needs to happen or give our employees homework to do. But really, truly understanding and addressing someone's real needs and preferences, whether that's spending time out in the field or talking with other employers, I think that's when you can really create those simple, accessible, relevant things. Because again, I think so much is well-intentioned in benefits, but you're just giving people a lot of homework and no one's looking for more homework. They're looking for more help. So to me, starting with that foundational need is what drives ultimately success for a benefits offering.
I love that. Less homework, more help. Let's talk about engagement. So a lot of programs sound great. I'm sure you get pitched all the time, lots of new products and services, and I'm sure a lot of them are wonderful, but at the end of the day, employees don't engage. And what do you think makes the difference between employees actually engaging and it just sort of sitting on the shelf?
Yeah, I think in addition to understanding the need, right, I think many leaders don't have a clear measure of success when they start a program. Their vision isn't clear for what success is, which I think then bleeds into implementation, communication, how you manage that vendor. And so it sounds very simple, but I think having a very clear definitions up front of what success looks like is what can ultimately lead to understanding engagement. And then I think from there, digging into the engagement that you have, right? If you're offering a financial wellness benefit, is it wealthy people using it? If you're offering that well-being benefit, maybe the engagement looks good, right? But it's the healthy well who just are getting their extra money. And so really unpacking that with a clear definition of success up front is, I think, ultimately what will drive you and be the through line to deliver the engagement you're looking for.
I love that. So let's double click on that. Since we're talking about mental health, what are some of the things you look for when measuring success of a mental health program?
It's challenging. While you do have utilization and satisfaction, for me, the best relationships with vendors is someone that is aligned to a strategic vision. It's not even necessarily what they offer today, but what they're planning to and working towards offering in the future. As I think about the benefits vendor relationships, again, that were most successful, yes, the product they offered today was important, but we were really partners along a trajectory of where they were headed and planning to go. And so I think when you're looking at the mental health space in particular, right, it isn't just the EAP and therapy, right? You're trying to understand how are you going to impact things in the health plan, right? What are those low acuity self-service items that you can bring forward? In our space, what can you do to help me with substance use disorder, right? Or other gambling, sex addiction, things that might be more on the margins outside of just traditional talk therapy. And so that to me, the breadth of that offering and really that alignment on a strategic partnership is what we're looking for.
You may have heard me mention this before, but when I did the interviews for the Mental Health Advantage book, I would ask a number of questions to really thoughtful people leaders around the importance of diversity or how they think about managers or proactive care. And they all had really great answers. And when it came to how do you measure the success of your mental health program, the answer I would always get was something that started with, that's a really good question. And so in the book, that's sort of the only chapter. I mean, obviously the whole book I wrote, but that's the only one that really has a lot of my thinking on how are you measuring engagement, not just as a one time, not just as clinical, but over time and consistency. And what are we doing proactively? And what are we doing even a step before that, the level of awareness to the program. And then from there, what are the outcomes that we're seeing and how are we breaking that down? So really looking at it across a variety of ways, because at the end of the day, there is no really easy thing. If we just say 2% of your employees use it or 30% of your employees use it, like, okay, is it helping them? How are they using it? How often are they using it? Et cetera. So there's a lot more to that. Let's talk a little bit about how you're reaching employees. You have a lot of employees that are not sitting behind desks. So maybe take a minute to tell us about Amtrak employees. I'm assuming everybody knows Amtrak, but you have a lot of different types of employees. So maybe tell us the types and then how you engage those folks.
So I'd say Amtrak is similar to other passenger transportation companies. So it's 80 to 90% union. So very heavily unionized employee workforce. It's people not just on the train. Our CEO would say he was the mayor of a small city. We have a power plant. We have food services. The train is kind of like a rolling hotel at times. There's people fixing the track. We have a police department. And so it really is a disparate group of employees that we need to serve of all walks of life. And again, that composition is not too dissimilar from what you would find in an airline industry as well. So it might not be a novel strategy, but it might be mostly unique for a company like Amtrak, which is really boots on the ground. We're lucky to have nearly 10 internal clinicians, whether they're EAP or substance use, that still partner with mental health companies that are external to amplify our offering, but allow us to be out there at those hubs and allow us to be on the ground talking to employees. And it works for us in a couple of ways. One, they can understand the need, but they can also build the trust. So not only are they helping with mental health, they're able to amplify a financial wellness solution we're bringing forward. And so I realize that might not be available to all employees and employers, but for us at Amtrak, that investment, and I think what you speak a lot and well to in the book is creating the culture that then enables some of that proactivity. So, we might have double-digit engagement largely because it has become part of our culture, and part of our culture is fueled by those boots on the ground, meeting with employees, understanding their needs, and being available when critical incidents happen.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you touched on the financial well-being component because we often put these things in different buckets when they're actually all connected. So we do it when it comes to mental health versus physical health, right? And yet we all know you have a bad dream, you're going to wake up in a cold sweat, right? Like you feel it in your body, or your heart's racing, or you're stressed, and then all of a sudden your stomach's bothering you. And this can obviously go. And when you think about financial well-being, I don't know about you, but I've had times in my life where I've been really stressed about finances, right? And then you think about, well, what happens there? Now I'm fighting with my wife more often, or my husband, or my so and so, or I'm showing up to work and I'm kind of snappy because I know this person's making more money than me, or I'm struggling because I have to take care of older parents or young children, right? I mean, and then this stuff, and then I can't sleep, and because I can't sleep, then I'm drinking more coffee during the day, right? And then because I'm drinking more, right? And
Yeah,
so all this stuff
absolutely.
is connected. So the fact that you have resources that do speak to each other is very, very valuable.
They're kind of the glue, right? We are very lucky to have them. You know, most rewards teams always have compensation and benefits, and then you get stuck with some bonus thing. Could be payroll or information systems, but we are very fortunate to have these internal clinicians that again act as amplifiers, accelerants to kind of all the work that we do.
Yeah. So, what's the role of simplification and storytelling in helping employees to understand their options and the benefits that are available to them?
It's really hard, but simplification, in my mind, is the best design, is the best benefit, right? The easy thing to do should be the right thing to do. And too often we don't focus on that customer journey. We're focused maybe more on simple for us to administer the benefit versus simple for our employees to use the benefit. But to me, really at the heart of what you offer should be foundational is simplicity. And then storytelling, I think, is the light moment. You know, we offer so many benefits and so many rewards, and people do not understand what they are. But verbatim or a quick testimonial for how you're envisioning meeting the needs of your employees, that storytelling and narrative arc is, I think, what is the unlock for people to understand. Oh, you can tell me you offer a financial wellness benefit, but I don't know what that means. But if you tell me my car broke down, I'm an hourly employee and didn't have enough wages to get that car fixed, and so that financial wellness vendor can help me with an emergency savings loan that isn't going to be a payday loan through another vendor that we have. Now you're solving problems and needs, and I kind of understand what that offering is. So to me, simplicity is at the foundation, and the storytelling is hopefully the light bulb moment that you can offer to people.
Yeah, I love that. When I think about the simplicity part, I talk to people leaders all day that are saying, "Hey, we're putting out all of these amazing benefits to employees, right? And the bigger the company, the more benefits, right? This whole
Yeah,
smorgasbord, this whole buffet, and our employees
absolutely.
are coming and saying, we're starving, right? We don't know where to go." And the HR leaders, like, it's all right here. I think actually it's funny because we mentioned this before we started recording here. I think Marco Diaz and the team at News Corp actually do a beautiful job. I don't know if you've ever seen their website, but how it breaks down the benefits. It's a public website, so folks can go and check it out on, like, I am blank, I am looking for blank. Like, it really makes it very user friendly. And you think about, like, Steve Jobs, right? Who a lot of his innovations were in beautiful, elegant design that just made things so simple and so
Yes.
user friendly. And then when I think about the storytelling component of it, it's exactly the same. Your financial well-being story really hits when you talk about EAP. Who cares EAP, right? Like, what's that? How's that going to help
Yeah.
you? Well, we're going to help you if your teenage daughter is struggling, or your teenage son is having problems, or you're feeling stressed about work, or you can't sleep, or obviously we touch financial well-being as well, or substance abuse, or this. And so it's this really can be really beautiful and broad and specific program. But if you don't tell it through real stories, especially stories of the employees, nobody cares. Everybody just tunes out, right? Everybody's too
Yeah.
busy.
And, and I think maybe, it's because we're caught in the industry still, but I still run into so many employees that do not understand the access that they have to essentially free therapy where that's unlimited in some senses, right? Where they could, have a new issue each time to kind of refill their visit limit, or might say, I want to go to a therapist. I don't want to use EAP. It's like, well, no, that's what that's there for too, right? And so just some of the basic challenges of the unlock, and I think the opportunities, like you mentioned, for storytelling and the narrative to kind of imbue in our culture something that is proactive and that we treat like physical health or other items in our life that just help us be a better person, a better employee.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things we work on communicating is the benefit, at least with Journey, is not just available to you or your householders or your dependents, but any and all loved one. You have a best friend, you have a next door neighbor, you have a cousin. It's all included, it's all free. And so oftentimes I might think I'm okay, whether I am or not, TBD, but I might know that somebody else really is in need. And
Yeah.
being able to say, hey, I can take care of my husband, wife, etc., is oftentimes a very good first step to getting the employee to then take care of themselves, right? Because then when they see that good experience, they see that shift, they see that support, then they can identify, oh, actually, this might be helpful for me.
And that's such a gift, right? Because whether it's a small business or people in between jobs, right? And I think some of the struggling that you're seeing with even friends of my age, let alone younger people, to have access to something like a platform like that is such an incredible gift.
Thanks for listening to the first half of the episode. I hope you're walking away with some valuable insights. I want to take a quick pause to tell you about my book, The Mental Health Advantage. If you found this conversation useful, you'll find 300 more pages packed with strategies, insights, and real-world applications. Grab your copy on Amazon. Just check the show notes for the link. And if you're looking for a more comprehensive mental health solution for your company, let's chat. You'll find another link in the show notes to reach out and explore how Journey can help you. Now back to the show. How do you align global strategy with local nuance, especially when it comes to mental health and well-being?
For me, it starts with being around the business and understanding the business, right? Most benefits leaders sit in a corporate function in a corporate office, right? You might consider an ivory tower. And even though we are scaled, whether it was at AT&T or at Amtrak, it's very difficult to understand your employees' needs if you're not at least spending some time there with them. And so I think continual field visits outside of verbatims and engagement surveys, which are also helpful, really allow you to understand, you know, hey, you send this benefit communication, et cetera, but they're working all day. They don't have access to a phone, right? Or what are their challenges? And most of it might stem from, hey, I'm an hourly worker that doesn't work consistently each week, right? And so finances is the heart of what's causing kind of the cycle that you mentioned of maybe sleepless nights or drinking more coffee or bickering, right? And so that's really the need we need to solve. And so, again, sounds very simple, but I think the more time you can be out with your employees to understand the business and be around the business and not just defer that to your operations part is what's going to be an unlock for you of really understanding what your employees need, which then is going to be your measure of success to go forth and help them versus give them more homework.
I love that. So in talking about the measure of success, we talked about engagement and outcomes and things like that. And one of the things that comes up a lot, I was on a call earlier today and it came up, is ROI, right? So leaders often ask the question, what's the ROI on this? What's the ROI on this program? What's the ROI on mental health? How do you answer that question?
Well, it certainly impacts productivity in the ways I think we've talked about today, right? When we personally have struggled with mental health or have friends and family, you know it's impacting their work, right? They're not showing up, they're not as effective. But I think even though we know that to be true, that can be harder to prove. So I think a good place to start is to look at how much of your therapy is going through your health plan versus going through a partner like an EAP. You have this great, free, high quality therapy network that may have some of the other broader aspects we've talked about. But yet, the majority of employees are still going and paying out of pocket in your health plan with some unknown amount of quality for some unknown period of time that you really can't have a sense of measurement for what they're getting for that. And so I think as mental health has become kind of a top 4 or 5 cost, you're seeing more employees, I think about the ROI dynamic in the sense of how much therapy is bypassing my EAP And should I do something like an exclusive network where the EAP really is the therapy network within the health plan, let alone kind of standalone or outside? So I think that's a very simple measure. Not that it's the only thing that the mental health partner would be providing, but it's an easy way to see, am I flowing more of my therapy dollars into an EAP and out of the health plan?
Hmm. And have you seen a direct connection between improved mental health offerings and reduced medical claims, absenteeism, things like that?
Absolutely, right? It definitely seems, and maybe it's a little less in vogue, but it felt like for a while there, every vendor, whether you were musculoskeletal or cancer, would talk about the comorbidities of mental health and how, right, they were bringing forward solutions. And so I think it's evident in anything related to physical health challenges that people are going to through, that there is going to be a mental health component to that. And again, as I think those costs rise, there's more and more focus on the mental health space, even outside of what came through the rush of going through COVID. The challenge, I think, is integration, right? So if you have a key EAP partner and some of these musculoskeletal, cancer, other point solutions, how do you integrate and connect? Something we've done more recently is basic, but as we have high cost claimants, having our internal team reach out to them from an EAP perspective. We know at a minimum, they are going to be going through a lot of stuff. And I hope we can work our way down that cost acuity to address more needs because I think it's a great entry point into an EAP program.
For sure. Yeah. One of the features we have is called Benefit Connect. And the idea is that we have all of the other benefits both listed on the digital platform and available to the therapist so that they know, hey, you also have Fidelity for financial well-being, or you have Sword or Hinge for MSK, or you have this because, again, it's all connected. You've worked with big budgets, I'm sure, at AT&T, maybe at Amtrak, and you've made major cuts that turned into savings. So what's your approach for budgeting when it comes to benefits?
Yeah, generally my goal is probably not dissimilar from others, but to have a better than market trend. And what that allows for is, hey, for each incremental dollar I can save better than market, I kind of argue I can reinvest that into unique programs and offerings and hopefully create a virtuous cycle where that investment in unique programs and offering or above average benefits then provides better employees, which provides better revenue, and the better programs hopefully lower my market trend or lower my trend relative to market. And so that at a high level in the macro and aggregate is how I think about our benefit spend, is to try to be better than market, and whatever I can save I get to keep for myself and reinvest in new programs or reinvest in better than market rewards. But it's a tough thing to maintain that kind of better than market position. But that's kind of how I've approached thinking about budgeting for benefits.
Okay, so I'm going to go way off script here because I'm just so curious. So, I talk to people leaders all day, and we talk about EAPs, and they say, "Oh, we're above benchmark." Oh, okay, great, that's awesome. What? Oh, we're at 3.5%. We're at 4%, and I'm like, it's good, but why is that good? Like, if 96% of your employees aren't using that,
Yeah.
why is that good? And then we have another problem, which is we go to HR leaders and say, we average 30% engagement. And this is at companies with tens or hundreds of thousands of employees, right? We're doing this across big scale globally. And they're like, we don't believe this. Like it's not possible. And so I work with the team, the Journey team, to say, how do we communicate this? Because it's like sometimes you don't even know you have a problem because you're so used to looking at it one way. Oh, benchmark's 3%, we're at 5%, we're 60% above the benchmark. Amazing. And we're saying, yeah, but that's too low. Like, it's not right. So I guess I'm curious your thoughts on that.
I think we're the frog that's been boiled in the pot, right? Like our expectations are so low because we've always seen it be so low. It's probably not dissimilar from saying like my healthcare costs are only going up 10% and the market's going up 15. It's like, well, why
Right.
should that be a good, like, why is that success? But it is really scary, I think, when you think about success in the EAP space where maybe engagement has been 1, 2, 3%, low single digits. And,
Hmm.
we claim victory when we can cross over into that 10, 11% threshold, when the reality is nearly everyone at different moments of their life needs access, right? This, if we are doing it in a proactive way and it's imbued in our culture, should not be dissimilar from someone who has the weekly, daily habit of going to the gym or doing yoga or going for a run. And yet we don't treat kind of that proactive mental health landscape in that same way. And we accept that materially the majority of people are not caring for their whole self most of the time. But yeah, I think it's just we've been the frog that's boiled in the pot and are used to low expectations, and so something only marginally better feels like success. And so I think we're comparing ourselves to kind of a bad baseline versus what it should
Yeah, I
be.
think that's right. And I think the healthcare analogy is a good one, right? We're only going up 9% this
Yeah,
year. Wait, what? Why is that good?
yeah, that's
Um,
success, right? Oh, healthcare is only a quarter of our GDP, right? Like, oh, we're doing great if we'll just keep it steady. It's like, well, why is it double other countries, right?
I think a quarter is healthcare, and a quarter is servicing the debt, and another quarter is defense, and then the other quarter is everything else that's going on in the
That's
world,
right.
or something like that.
Help you stay alive and pay your bills.
Yeah, let's talk about trust, transparency, and communication. So you've led incentive programs, executive pay strategy, large scale comp plans. How do you build trust when the stakes are high with things like this?
I focus here, having had the opportunity to present to boards of directors, Congress, et cetera, is really, again, as a service organization, HR benefits, to lean into understanding your business and not giving away your power of saying, I'm just in HR. Because the more you know about the business, finance, government affairs, the clients that you're serving, the more you're able to dig in and do your own homework and deliver a robust solution. And then I think the second part, which is kind of back to simplicity, is do you have a simple understanding of what it is you're saying? What is the one thing I want someone to walk away with out of this board meeting? What is the one thing I want someone in Congress to understand about our performance based programs? And I think if you're struggling understanding that, then you don't know it and your audience isn't going to know it, right? You haven't spent enough time distilling it to your own ideas. And so to me, that power of understanding the business and distilling it to a simple idea that you know it so well, the one through line, those two is what come across to your audience, whether it's a board of directors, a C-suite, trying to make a decision that then empower you to have the trust, right? It builds that cycle of trust but verification. You become known as a trusted leader. So don't give away your power and then spend the time. It's kind of like the design cycle. You got to spend the time before you get in there to really simplify what it is you're delivering.
Yeah, yeah. Are you spending much time in front of Congress nowadays?
From not in front of Congress, but with a lot of congressional staff, it's one thing that was interesting at Amtrak that I just wasn't used to or didn't expect. We're subject to Freedom of Information Act requests, right? Congressional staffers, our total rewards communications don't just go to our employees, right? They make their way to someone in Congress or the Washington Post or New York Times, right? So you really do have to always consider being the good steward and trustee of Congress, of your constituents, and of your customers. So probably had more conversations here than when working with some of the lobby and trade groups when I was at AT&T. So it's interesting.
If I turn on C-SPAN and I see you on there, I know you're in good hands there. So on your LinkedIn, it says humble servant leader. How does that mindset influence how you build teams and strategy?
Hopefully my humble servant leadership, if true and not just self-professed, comes across almost like your favorite teacher, right? When you think about some of the best teachers that you've had in your life, what were they or what did they do? Well, they probably knew you on a personal level. They probably understood some of your aspirations and goals and what you wanted. And then they also, given that as a foundation, were able to kind of push and challenge you in a way for you to be your best self because of that relationship. And so, to me, hopefully, how that manifests in a benefits or rewards context is that the strategy's coming bottom up, not top down from me, and that they feel empowered to know I'll listen and challenge them. But as they take ownership of ideas and strategies, they're closer to the work. They're going to have a higher fidelity, better ideas if it's coming up organically from the bottom than if it's someone more removed like myself and coming top down. So that's kind of how I hope that humble servant leadership comes across. And again, hopefully fosters and creates that space for ideas to come bottom up, challenge the status quo, and that they feel more encouraged to work harder because it's their idea that they're owning versus just executing something that I asked them to do.
I love that. I love that. That's definitely a really good lesson. Piggybacking on that, and I think as we look to close this out, just based on time, I feel like you and I could probably spend 2 more hours
Yeah.
talking about that. What's a lesson that you learned the hard way that's changed how you lead?
I alluded to it a little bit, but I really got burnt out in consulting. I found it to be a high IQ game where it was kind of the smartest person in the room was trying to win, sell the most, work the most hours. And I really wasn't giving myself or my teams, I think, enough opportunity to be their whole person and bring the emotional quotient side into things. It was very black and white, and just pressing to the metal and again, billing more hours, selling more projects. And I think ultimately that's what led to my burnout. And I really had a great opportunity again to pivot to AT&T and join the employer side where I felt like it would recognize my whole self, not only the intelligence quotient, but being able to bring in the emotional quotient as a leader, for myself to share with other people. And that, as simple as it sounds, was just a huge paradigm shift for me, which kind of led me to be more heart forward than head forward. And so that just took a long time for me to get there. But it's one now, both in work and life, I think that serves me well, leads to more connectivity with people. And we'll always get to the head forward stuff, but I think starting with heart forward was a tough lesson for me to get to, but one that's paid tremendous dividends in work and life.
I love that. How does that work at Amtrak? To your point, like there's a lot of the government's involved. There's unions. There's groups that aren't necessarily always operating, at least the way we think about them, as heart first. Right? It'd be one thing if you said that and you were working at Lululemon or you're working at a meditation company or a yoga studio. How does that work in an organization like Amtrak?
To me, it's how I connect, hopefully, with our teams and our direct reports, right? It's back to that, if I want to be that servant leader, their favorite teacher, I feel like I first need to understand and connect with them on a personal level, and I need to understand their goals and visions for where they're headed. And I think a lot of that connection that enables that speed of trust lives with the heart, not with the head. And so to me, that's what enables the foundation and enables the teaming. I always think a great team of B players will outperform the all-star team that are individuals and A players, right? And that's kind of what I felt like I saw on the consultant side of infighting against amazing talent. But really the glue, I think, of the heart forward and understanding the needs of the team, understanding the people on a personal level and what their goals are, is what then becomes the accelerant to allow you to push them with some of the more head forward ideas that you might have.
I love that. That feels like a beautiful place to end. So, Nate, thank you for your clarity, your candor, for being such an open-hearted leader, for sharing your wisdom and your humor, and your commitment to building programs that matter is inspirational. So, thank you for doing that.
No, appreciate it. This has been great. Thanks, Stephen.
All right. Nate, have a wonderful day. Appreciate the conversation. Thanks for spending this time with us. We know you're busy. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe to the Mental Health Advantage and leave a review. Thanks so much and have a beautiful day.